When I bought my ranch I thought I was finally escaping all the nonsense that came with suburban living. The city had worn me down. The constant honking traffic and the endless grind of being told what I could and could not do on my own property had driven me insane. But worst of all were the homeowners associations, the HOAs, that seemed to think they owned not only the neighborhood but also the people in it. You could not park your truck in the driveway without them sending a letter. You could not paint your door the wrong shade of beige without them slapping you with fines. You could not so much as plant a tomato garden without them demanding you submit paperwork and request permission like some school kid asking for a bathroom pass. So when I found a wide stretch of land out in the country, a place where I could finally breathe with no rules and no nosy neighbors, I thought I had found paradise. This ranch had everything I wanted: rolling fields, a strong barn, a quiet pond with cattails swaying in the breeze, and the kind of silence you could only get when your closest neighbor was a mile away. I thought finally peace. For months life was good. I woke up with the sunrise, fed the horses, rode across the pastures in the afternoon, and ended my evenings sitting on the porch watching the sky turn orange and purple with the setting sun. The only sounds were crickets and coyotes in the distance. I had no letters, no fines, no rules, and no law. Or so I thought. It all began one morning when I drove down to the front gate to meet a hay delivery truck. That was when I noticed something strange. A huge RV was parked just inside the entrance, not even off to the side but directly blocking the path. The delivery driver was stuck on the road honking, frustrated. I pulled up confused, wondering who would dare leave their camper on private property. I stepped out of my truck, walked closer, and before I could even knock on the RV door it swung open and out came a woman. She was in her 50s, wearing oversized sunglasses, a floral shirt tucked into khaki shorts, and clutching a clipboard like it was a sword. She looked me up and down with this smug little smirk and then said words I will never forget. "This ranch looks way too empty. You need more order, more activity, and since you have so much unused land I have decided to park my RV here for the summer." I stared at her thinking surely she was joking, but she was dead serious. I told her flat out, "This is private property, you cannot just park here." She waved her clipboard in my face and said, "Actually I am part of the homeowners association from the nearby subdivision. We look after properties in this whole area and it is my duty to make sure land like this does not sit wasted." I laughed right in her face because I knew she was lying. My ranch was nowhere near their jurisdiction. I bought this land specifically to avoid people like her. I explained calmly, "You do not have any authority here. This is my ranch, my deed, my rules. You need to move your RV." She crossed her arms, tilted her chin up, and said, "No, I am staying. You clearly do not know how to manage land. This place is too empty. It needs proper community oversight." That was the day I met HOA Karen. At first I tried to be reasonable. I thought maybe she was just confused, maybe she thought this was some kind of open campground, but it quickly became obvious she had no intention of leaving. The next day I woke up to the sound of a roaring generator. She had set it up right outside her RV and the noise carried across the valley all night long, so loud I could barely sleep. She hung laundry lines across my fence posts strung with sheets and underwear flapping in the breeze. She even set out a bunch of plastic pink flamingos near the dirt road, turning my peaceful entrance into some tacky trailer park. I walked over and told her again, "You need to move. This is not your land." She smirked and handed me a paper. It was a fake violation notice with the words "Homeowners Association Violation" written in bold at the top. It claimed I owed $500 for failing to maintain proper landscaping. She said, "If you want to avoid more fines you will cooperate with me." I crumpled it up in front of her face and told her to stop harassing me, but she just doubled down. She told me she was filing paperwork to make my land officially part of their HOA jurisdiction, and until it was approved she would be acting president overseeing my property. Things only got worse. A few days later I came outside to find 3 more cars parked near the entrance. Karen had invited her so-called HOA friends to hang out on my ranch. They brought folding chairs, set up a card table, and started sketching plans for so-called community improvements. They wanted to build a tennis court near my barn, a gazebo by the pond, and a dog park in my pasture, and they were already talking about charging people membership fees. I was furious. This was trespassing, plain and simple. I told them all to leave. They laughed and said the community had spoken. I realized then I could not handle this alone, so I called the sheriff. When the deputies arrived, Karen ran up to them, clipboard in hand, acting like she was the boss. She pointed at me and said, "Officers, this man is negligent. He does not follow community rules. He is ruining the neighborhood with his empty land. I am here to enforce order." The deputies raised an eyebrow and asked for proof. She tried showing them her clipboard covered in scribbles and printed letters with no legal stamp or signature. The deputies looked unimpressed. Then I pulled out my deed, the official documents showing my property lines clearly outside any HOA authority. The deputies turned to Karen and said, "Ma'am, you are trespassing. You need to move this RV right now." But Karen did not back down. Instead, she exploded. She yelled at them, saying they did not understand the law. She claimed she had the right to stay. She even threatened to fine the deputies themselves if they interfered. That was when the deputies called for a tow truck. When the tow truck arrived, Karen went ballistic. She planted herself in front of her RV, screaming, "You cannot touch community property. This belongs to the HOA." Now she stomped her feet, shouted threats, and even tried to block the tow truck by standing in the road. The deputies gave her one last chance. They said, "Ma'am, move your vehicle or it will be removed for you." She refused. She jumped into the driver's seat, trying to start the RV to stop the tow truck, but the deputies pulled her out, and as they did, she flailed her arms, striking one of them with her elbow. That was assault. In seconds they had her in handcuffs. Her sunglasses fell into the dirt, her clipboard snapped in half, and she was dragged to the patrol car, kicking and screaming. She shouted things like, "I am the president. You will all regret this. I will sue every single one of you." But nobody listened. The tow truck hauled her RV down the road. Her friends scattered like scared birds, and the valley finally fell quiet again. I stood there watching the deputies drive away with Karen still screaming in the back seat, and I felt a rush of relief. For the first time in weeks, my ranch was mine again. No generator, no plastic flamingos, no fake violation notices, just peace. To this day my neighbors still laugh about it. They say only I could manage to attract an HOA Karen all the way out in the countryside, but I tell them it is a lesson. Sometimes people like that think they can control the world. They think rules apply everywhere, but if you know your rights, if you stand firm and refuse to be bullied, they cannot win. And that is the story of how HOA Karen said my ranch was too empty, parked her RV, refused to move, and ended up towed and arrested.